Seriousness, as absolutely crazy as this sounds, I've been wondering lately if basketball, women's professional basketball, is even going to exist in the United States in 2027. And if it does not, will it ever again, or at least for a long time? When you look at the growth of the game overseas and the different leagues overseas and so forth, and it's like, can we get that back? Because between what I'm seeing from the players with regard to the negotiations for the new CBA and what their expectations are versus what the reality of the league is going to be, and then I look at Unrivaled in its second season, and I look at the ratings, the early ratings already. I don't know how the Unrivaled is a viable league going forward. It certainly can't be anything else other than what it is, right? Like this year, what are 8 teams this year versus 6 last year? And I think they have some where they're going to be, Philadelphia is one place where they're going to try and move. But there's no way at this point you see any indication that Unrivaled can go to becoming some sort of true competitor with the WNBA in terms of maybe going 5v5, or at the very least start expanding to where teams are actually located in different cities and then they compete with one another, which is a lot more like another league. It's actually kind of wild to think about when you think about how long WA has been around, 30 years now. And I know we get into the subsidizing by the NBA and all of that, but it's still a well-established league. And to think that quickly, all because of Caitlin Clark, there may not be women's professional basketball in 2027. Simply because the league, one, did not want to accept her, and then convince themselves that everything that we've seen in terms of the growth of the league in the past couple of years is because of them and not because of Caitlin Clark. And it is all because of Caitlin Clark. Even the ratings that we saw for the finals, for example, that is all because of Caitlin Clark. All of this growth in the past year or two, and I'm not saying that some of it doesn't stay, that you don't have, and I mean that's the whole point, right? You get Caitlin Clark fans to come in and they see the rest of the league and they become one of those fans, and I guess we'll call them casual fans, and I mean that in a positive way, in a respectful way. That is how all of these leagues survive. The NBA, the NFL, Major League, they don't have enough diehard fans to get the ratings they do and get the media rights deals they do and get the money that they do. You need those casual fans that just tune in, and it becomes a habit for them to tune in, and they will tune into other games, especially the NFL, because there's so few games on the schedule and so forth. But to not have that, it's crazy. It really is. And it's a shame because I was thinking about, and I'd be a lot more excited. I was thinking about what it would be like in other leagues, what we had this year. Now, we know we had it because of the CBA, but if they get a deal done and they get a deal done quickly, now not getting a deal done quickly is going to make it even crazier. But to think, okay, let's say CBA deal gets done and you know what's next? Well, we've got to have the expansion draft, right? But then we're talking about free agency, and it's what, like 80%, 80% of the all right, I'm gonna call timeout here because I'm gonna check. Jerry. Hey Jerry, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the comment. Yeah, this was kind of just like spur of the moment, spontaneous, impulsive, whatever it is. I'm like, I've got my computer here. I'm gonna go on and just yap with big picture stuff, because of what I was just getting at now with the WNBA. And I thought about, especially when I was younger, and I used to play like you know, fantasy league baseball and football. So before it became the huge thing, not doing it online and even just actually physically getting together with some friends and holding drafts and this and that. And I just think about what it would be like in the NBA or the NFL, or I mean, truly even the WNBA, if they get a deal done where you've got what, 80% of the league, 80% of the league being free agents, okay? Because think about what that means. It's not just there could be a ton of player movement, right? But you're also going to get this. Think about when you have a team courting a free agent. Like, let's say it's the Indiana Fever last year, and you pretty much know who's on the team, right? And you know you've got Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell. When they court her and they signed her, and so you're making pitches, right? As teams who want certain players and players that have offers and interest from other teams, you make a pitch. And your pitch is based on, this is what we have. This is the roster they have. This is what we're trying to achieve. And none of the teams can do that now, right? It's more like, well, we're talking to this player and we're talking to that player, and this player has a lot of interest, and we think we're going to sign them, and then if we sign them, what does that mean for you? And it's kind of wild to think about. I was thinking about how entertaining an off season that would be. And can you imagine that in like the NFL or the NBA or something? But like I said, even the WNBA, it's fascinating. So there are going to be so many rumors, and of course now watch will end up being like no player movement, but there probably will be a decent amount, and there has to be, because you're also going to get, of course, the expansion draft. And I was just thinking about this. I saw an article about with Sophie Cunningham and her talk, and it was just indicating how much she enjoyed her time with the Indiana Fever and how much she wanted to be here, and the players in the locker room and all that, and how much she just loved when she got traded and her experience in Indiana. And of course, she's developed relationships and friendships and so forth. And the Indiana Fever may very well not be able to keep Sophie Cunningham. Like, it's not up to them, which leads, because you've got two expansion teams right now. And I believe, and then look, we don't know for sure, obviously, with the CBA, but it seems like the idea, at least. Remember, they got to protect 6 last year when there was only one team. And of course, then there was limits of, I think, I forget the number, but Golden State could like draft a certain number of unrestricted free agents. So you're getting that. That's what's crazy is when you combine the two, you have the two expansion teams. Most likely, teams are only going to be able to protect 5, which is insane to think about. But then you also start thinking, well, how are these expansion teams going to actually fill their rosters when 80% of the league are free agents? Because that gets really tricky. I was thinking about that with the CBA. I mean, there's going to have to be some sort of rule where it's like where free agents aren't necessarily going to be free agents. Like, there's got to be some sort of restriction there in order to fill the roster for the expansion teams, right? Where they're going to have to be able to, I think, draft a certain number of unrestricted free agents, and those unrestricted free agents have to play for that expansion team, because otherwise I don't know how you even get a full roster for 2 expansion teams. And, getting back to where I was started with this, specifically to Sophie Cunningham, is right. You're going to have Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Lexi Hull, Kelsey Mitchell, and Timpson. Now they don't have to protect Timpson, but she is under contract, because that's the other thing. I mean, teams might have to actually protect unrestricted free agents, which is also kind of wild when you think about it, which is, what Sophie is. Now, Lexi is a free agent, but she's restricted. So I believe it's really straightforward, where she can go out, she can look, someone makes a deal, the Fever can say, hey, you know what? Too rich for our blood. We're going to put our money anywhere elsewhere. We let Lexi Hull go, or they can say, "Hey, Lex, we're going to match that," and then Lexi has to play in Indiana. So my guess is Lexi Hull will be back, but now, like I said, they could maybe not protect Timpson, but if you don't protect Timpson and you protect Sophie Cunningham, there's what I mean about risk, right? Sophie Cunningham being a free agent. That's why the players I was naming basically are under contract. Obviously, Kelsey is a free agent, but I believe she can be cored one more time. Let me know in the comments if that is correct. Uh, CCAB, KK, Lexi are 100% who I want to keep. I think those are 4 that will be cord, and then I can't even. I just blanked on 5. I know there are 5 and that I mentioned, and someone said Timpson will get scooped. But see, I don't know, Greatland, if that's true because they can protect her. I don't know that they will protect Sophie over Timpson because Sophie is an unrestricted free agent, right? So let's say you protect Sophie instead of Timpson. She goes elsewhere. You have a 4-player roster, and of course, you have to match Lexi Hull in order to keep her. You have to core Kelsey Mitchell in order to keep her, right? So those 2 are going to be expensive, and then you have Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston, and now you've got to go out and fill a roster of 8 more players between the draft and free agents. That's what they. Man, it's such a shame about what's now. I realize all the free agents wouldn't be free agents probably if we didn't have the CBA, but man, I just from an entertainment standpoint, from someone who's played fantasy baseball, fantasy football, and so forth, I love the idea of what this free agency period could be. We could see completely new teams almost everywhere. And to see again, like the teams are going to have to make pitches without not even really knowing who's on their own team. And then the free agents have to make decisions based on that as well and be like, it's like, and there's going to be some backroom dealing in terms of phone calls and conversations and so forth to try and figure things out in terms of who's going where and what a team is going to look like with their roster and so forth. Uh, wow, people are commenting stuff. I got to check. I'm like, I should be paying attention to these. Hold on. Don't mind me. I'm just kind of scrolling. If the cap was what if the cap was 6.5 million yet? But again, because of like, I get the cap is bigger and that helps, but you're also going to have the salaries being bigger as well, right? Like, so that's going to be a part of it as well. So that's all going to have to be figured out for Ben Daniel just showed up, and he just completely wrecked my train of thought because he's like that. But hold on one second, y'all. I know sometimes these are a real pain, but BDP, check your messages right now, man. So where was I? Yeah, free agents. So, oh yeah, the salary cap and stuff. So obviously salaries are going to be bigger as well. But yeah, I mean that's kind of just really what I had all that going through my head, and I wanted to get on here and talk about it and see what everyone thought. That if we could just set aside all the other crap for a minute and purely from a fan standpoint, especially again if you want who've played fantasy sports and you kind of get like you have that GM mentality at times and you kind of think about, hey, if I was in charge, the kind of roster I would build and who I would want on my team and everything. And I like the WNBA this offseason could be that kind of entertainment if they can figure out how to get a freaking deal done. We have to see a step back to reality for the players and the league. Like I know it sounds like it at times. I'm not putting it all on players, although in the WNBA more so than strikes and other leagues that we've seen, I think they're a little out there with what their expectations are. But yeah, Greatland Clark fan, I agree that I don't, and that's what I'm saying. I don't think Sophie wants to go anywhere, and then that's also what gets into. But it's the reality of how this is going to work out in terms of what the rules are going to be. Again, I think the expansion draft is going to be protect 5. I mean, they only protected 6 with 1, so I'm guessing that it's going to be protect 5 because that's what we've heard to this point. But I'm not absolutely sure on that. But if they are, it means most likely they're not protecting Sophie. And then that gets into what I said next, which is really wild, is Sophie's a unrestricted free agent. A lot of unrestricted free agents are going to be left unprotected. But what does that actually do for the expansion teams unless there's some sort of rule in there that the expansion teams can select X number of unrestricted free agents, and those free agents have to sign with those expansion teams, which means, of course, there would also be salary levels, and it might be a max. So maybe a team can have two max salary players. I'm just throwing this out as an idea of like what it could look like. And so it's okay. Well, you can draft two unrestricted free agents and sign them, and they can't go elsewhere, so they're not really free agents anymore, but they're going to get max salary based on their time in the league, whatever it might be for them, which also means that the expansion teams might be overpaying some players. So yeah, it's going to be wild when you factor in expansion teams and how many players are unrestricted in terms of free agency and a change in salary cap and salary, which could also mean it could be a roster change too. That's the other thing. We could see 14 player rosters. Now that doesn't mean every team carries 14, right? Just like you could have 12 up to this point, but we saw a lot of teams. I think the Fever did it for a lot of the season because of again, reality of the salary cap, where a lot of teams will take only carry 11. So that's a possibility as well. You have so man, it's going to get absolutely wild. I'm not against lose. Yeah, Mr. Noob's not against lose, but I don't see that happening at all. And she's under contract. So, dude, look at Jerry in here pimping other people's channels. That's wild. Shame, shame, shame. But but yeah, I mean, so that's what I'm saying. Look, Caitlin's obviously a definite. Aaliyah Boston is a definite. Lexi Hull is a definite. And Kelsey Mitchell is a definite. So that's 4 right there. And then Timpson is the only other player under contract. I'm just giving you I thought that was I thought that was Jerry responding. Yeah, I was just giving Jerry a hard time. And Timpson is the only other one under contract. That's why I'm naming those 5. And that's why I said it is obviously going to depend a lot on the rules in terms of the expansion draft and then also free agency. Because again, like I said, they're going to have to do something about free agents being drafted by the expansion teams, because in order to fill their rosters, they're going to have to be able to secure a certain number of unrestricted free agents in their draft. It just has to be. Yeah, Graylin, I get that, but you know what? That's where you get into players are going to they still want what they want and want what they deserve. I mean, look at guys like let's talk specifically about the NBA just for a second, and you look at what some of these guys get paid that have had. Now I'm just giving you a hard time, Jerry. Like guys that are maybe 8-10 year veterans that have maxed out and so forth, and they're free agents. They're not gonna go from making 30 million a year, even though maybe they've already earned 150 million or whatever for their career, and just to take 15 to play elsewhere. They just don't have that mentality. And quick digression on that. Quick story. I don't know if y'all heard this. Odell, for any football fans, Odell Beckham Jr., wide receiver, right? I think he earned like 120 million or something over his career, and I just heard him the other day complaining about how that wasn't enough, and 20 million a year doesn't go that far because of his expenses and all. Yeah, it gets wild. So yeah, they may be millionaires, but that doesn't mean they're going to play for a lot less than what they can get. I don't know. Yeah, Howard. So that's the other thing too, is they're going to protect. I think they'll protect the 5 that I said. I mean, I think it's pretty clear cut just because of the contract situation, and then it's going to be how many of their current players that are free agents are going to want to re-sign. How many do they want to re-sign as well? And then what else is available out there? Like I said, every single team could look very, very, very different. Um, Mr. Newman, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Kennedy Carter gets a shot back at the league again with all the changes and everything going on. Um, and the other thing, if going back to the fever for a second, a lot of fever, with those injuries, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but there are a lot more fever players. Like, even if they could say, there's no expansion, they're all under contract, even if they could bring back all the fever players, they couldn't because there are too many of them. So that's going to be an interesting thing too. Like, if they're looking at their own team first. Well, I was just going to say to this point, Greatland's making is, I was going to say, well, Kelsey can't be cored again, but that's again, I don't know how much of that in terms of free agency and salary and contract structures and everything, how much that is going to change going forward, right? Like, for example, under the current rules in the CBA, Kelsey Mitchell can be cored one more time, I think, right? But then that's it. So then after that, she is just an unrestricted free agent. And but here's that's where so many things changes. Like, I see Kelsey Mitchell actually, if Stephanie White stays around, I think Kelsey Mitchell stays around because Stephanie White is the greatest thing to ever happen to Kelsey Mitchell's time in Indiana, because Stephanie White is Kelsey Mitchell is the star of the team. Everything is going to revolve around Kelsey Mitchell. That's who Stephanie White is. So if you're Kelsey Mitchell, do you want to go elsewhere? Right? Like, that's I don't know that you get a better setup than that. Now, of course, how that plays out in reality when you've got Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston, that also gets kind of interesting. So we'll see if that changes or shifts depending on whether the team struggles or not. Or, I mean, I don't know what it would take to make Caitlin Clark unhappy. And I don't mean in terms of letting us and the public know, because I don't think she's that type in terms of what she's, thinking about playing time and all that type of stuff. But behind the scenes, what would it take to push Caitlin Clark to be like, this is not working out for me? There needs to be a change. The change is either me, but she doesn't want to go anywhere, right? Everyone talks about she wants to be home. Well, the reality of pros in all other sports is that's not how it works. But she might have that kind of power, but then that would be a power struggle between her and the coach. So I don't know, but that would get interesting because, like, setting aside anything in terms of what you feel about just Stephanie White as the coach overall or Kelsey Mitchell as a player overall, there is no doubt that in Stephanie White's mind, if you had to pick who is the player, who is the woman on the Indiana Fever that the team revolves around and is to be built around, it is Kelsey Mitchell. Now, you can agree or disagree, whether that's the right thing to do, but there's no doubt that that is what Stephanie White wants to do. That's where she leans. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic with the dude, Lou. Why you got to do that, man? Lou, why you got to bring up the Eagles, man? Come on now. Now everything just went. I just completely. I have no idea what I'm even going to talk about going forward, man. That's some wild stuff. Uh, yeah. To Jerry's point. Yeah, I was going to get into that next a little bit. That is something that's also going to be wild. Is how much of Caitlin Clark's fan base is already gone away. Now, we can never measure it for sure, because I think Caitlin Clark is, she's gaining more fans as well. But I don't know if I think the number would be higher. And I don't mean this in terms of, oh, people are disappointed and they don't like Caitlin Clark. It's just they got tired of everything else that is going around with her. And then it irks them a little bit. Like, I think we can all agree. And I'm not criticizing Caitlin, but that's just who she is. Everybody's a little different, but I think for some of us, we get irked at times that it seems like, because she's so damn nice, that she can be a little bit of a doormat You know what I mean? And maybe that's too harsh of a phrase, but I really hope she doesn't think that the WNBA is this wonderful place, and that these players are just competitive and they don't really dislike her and they don't really trying to end her career, because Caitlin, they really are. They really are. So I don't know. Obviously, I'm not a mind reader. I don't know what's in her head, but and it's the same thing with the offense. And I think, which is why, as crazy as it sounds, if we go back a little bit, um, I, as hard as I was on her for up to the Olympic break, and as much as it seemed like Christy Sides was like, I don't want Caitlin Clark here, man, she flipped the switch. She understood, she embraced, she changed, and we saw. I think we can all agree that we loved the basketball we saw post Olympic break with Christy Sides. Can Stephanie White do that? I don't know. I'm not as hopeful. With Stephanie White's been around a long time. I don't know if she has that same thing in her, too, because she should know by now already, right? Like, we kept hearing one of the selling points of Stephanie White was, oh, well, she knows Caitlin's game and she's been watching Caitlin Clark for years, and she called her games in college. And I'm like, yeah. And I actually didn't mean to get on Stephanie White. I was just really kind of interested in a conversation about the possibilities of how much this team could change and like who's going to play here and all that. But one last thing I will say that frustrated me is, at some point, words have to become actions, because a lot of people, even now, like the big supporters of Stephanie White, and that's fine if you are. I'm not like that. That's fine, but a lot of them are still clinging to what Stephanie White says, as opposed to the reality of what we've seen Stephanie White do, right? I don't care what she says about Caitlin Clark in press conferences anymore. I care about how she coaches the team and coaches Caitlin Clark on the court. Now, of course, with the injuries and everything, we didn't get to see a ton of that. So in a way, it's still kind of new, but no one will convince me that Stephanie White was happy about that first half against the New York Liberty. The body languages said she hated that. That was probably the greatest moment of basketball the WNBA has ever seen, in terms of the fans loving it, the entertainment value, bringing in new fans, if you're talking about a specific game or sequence or moment or whatever. But Stephanie White didn't like it. And you could look at the second half in that game, right? Look at the second half, from the 25 points in the first half, and we talk about the three, right? Three logo threes in 30 seconds or whatever, but she had a fourth, right? That one with Breanna Stewart, that wasn't included in that three. And then in the second half, she barely shot. We had that story with Caitlin talking about how Stephanie White doesn't like her throwing certain passes, and all the thing that makes Caitlin. Stephanie White doesn't want her to do that. And Caitlin seemed like, and that's where I can't think in her head. At the time, she seemed like she was on board, and I'm wondering how much of that is she going to need to see or experience to think, you know what? I know I really like the idea of Stephanie White being my coach, but it's starting to sink in that maybe it's not the best thing for my game. Yeah, yeah, I like this one, right? That was I like that. It turned out well. Um, Someone was sending me prompts to play around with. Obviously, it's AI, but yeah, it turned out well. So we'll see if all three of them will be back. It might only be two of them. Well, then, hey, who knows, man? Who knows, right? Lexi Hull, the Indiana Fever could change a lot. Lexi Hull could get an awesome deal somewhere else, and the Fever would be like, yeah, you know what? We're not going to match that. Or maybe they get a sign and trade. Like, someone wants them so badly, they say, well, we're going to sign her, but we're going to trade her so that you at least get something for it. But yeah, so that's interesting. So, man, it's something like, I think 80% of the league. I think there are over 100 players who are free agents in the WNBA. So The teams could change a lot. And by the way, that's the other thing too. For those of you that I want to talk about, for those of you that are wondering how this season is going to go, how Stephanie White is going to coach a healthy Caitlin Clark on the court. Here's a decent indicator. Yeah, it's a good point about no one knowing where to be. That was, yeah, I'm sure that's frustrating for someone with such a high game IQ like Caitlin. Uh, but here's a good indication if the CBA gets signed, right? And so, boom, we hit the free agency period. Look at who the Fever sign. Okay, look at who they sign, because that will give you a pretty good indication of how they're going to play and whether it is going to be about Caitlin Clark being Caitlin Clark and the Fever playing the way we all think the young core should play, the Kelsey Mitchells, the Lexi Hulls, Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and even Sophie Cunningham, if she were to be back, right? That high tempo, get shots early in the shot clock type of thing, run teams into the ground. Because, and I'll use her because I think it's a great example, but not her specifically, but still that same style, right? If they are to sign players like Natasha Howard, that's an indication to you that they're not interested in playing Caitlin Clark style basketball, right? Because Natasha Howard is not that. Natasha Howard is, and look, she may have been when she was younger, right? I'm not trying to actually criticize Natasha Howard here, but the way she plays the game now isn't that. It's a slow game. It's a half court game. Yeah, I mean that, like, if if I am coaching Caitlin Clark, the game revolves around her. Now, you have to have moments, of course, it is game relevant. You have to have moments where you are slowing things down and you are looking for, a shot late in the shot clock for whatever reason. But in general, if I am coaching and I have Caitlin Clark, I want young, hungry players who can run. And I want to go way back. I want to go all the way back to the 80s. And I want to basically run a Caitlin Clark style version of Nolan Richardson's 40 minutes of hell at Arkansas. High tempo, full court, always running when you have the basketball, always playing high pressure defense as well, which means of course you also have to be deep, right? Because you've got to have players that come off the bench and give starters rest. Because, and by the way, that's also something that when you've got a number of scorers. You've got Aaliyah Boston, you've got Kelsey Mitchell, you've got Caitlin Clark, and you've got players, you've got maybe a Sophie Cunningham, you've got all these players that want to get shots. Well, when you're running like that all the time, you have more possessions, which means you have more shots, which means you're more likely to keep all of these shooters and scorers happy than if you're playing a slow, plodding game where you're getting into the half court and the shots are being taken towards the end of the shot clock and so forth. So don't mind me. There's so many comments scrolling by. So thank you. I really thought it would be like, maybe a person or two here. Um, yeah. Well, that's what I'm worried about, to Jerry's point. And that's why I'm saying that, keep an eye on the free agency too, if we actually get to that point, because the style of play, the style of player that they sign is going to give us some clues as to what kind of offense Stephanie White is going to run. But either way, I think, the offense is going to revolve around Kelsey Mitchell, at least at the start. Will there be adjustments? Will they say, hey, maybe this isn't working? Will Caitlin Clark behind the scenes be, like, hey, I'm not exactly on board with this. I'm not exactly happy with this. And especially if the team struggles playing that way, you might see some changes. But fire Kelly, Amber, and Stephanie today. Yeah, I mean, that's not going to happen, obviously, but that wouldn't be the worst. That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But yeah, that's not going to happen. So we're going to have to get used to that. So again, if they're signing players like Natasha Howard um, Dewana Bonner, right? Players like that, they're probably not going to be playing up tempo and running. Now, if they bring Kennedy Carter back into the league, you know, okay, okay, then that's more of an indication that they want to go, right? Uh, yeah, I don't know that. Oh, where's that thing I just saw? What was that? Yeah, I don't know that Stephanie White will be benching Caitlin, but I definitely am not looking forward to the way I think Stephanie White is going to utilize Caitlin Clark, right? And we saw it in the few games. We saw Caitlin Clark was getting beat up physically because she was spending a lot of time setting off ball screens for other people. I mean, it actually was worse than Christy Side's go stand in the corner thing. At least when she was going to stand in the corner, she might get a kick out to her to take a three, and she's not getting beat up physically. Where with Stephanie White, Stephanie White's gotten to going through traffic and setting screens on other teams' bigs and so forth. And look, man, if you've got an offensive player like Caitlin Clark, setting aside all the other stuff, just from a competitive want to win standpoint, so you can talk about Steph Curry like this or whatever, and she's setting a screen on you. And this is not about being dirty, just as a competitor, you're going to run hard through that screen. Again, nothing dirty. You're just going to go hard through that screen because that's an opportunity for you. It doesn't seem like much, but it all adds up. I remember one time uh, I was sparring with a friend of mine, and I took a lot of taekwondo. I have a friend of mine who took kung fu, and he was early into it, so he had never sparred with someone who used a very kick dominant art, right? So, if anyone who's watched MMA, right, you watch leg kicks, roundhouse leg kicks on the leg. I mean, he had no defense for it, and I'd do it and it's no big deal. And then I'd connect again and it's no big deal. And then by, the 10th, 12th, 15th kick, he's a one-legged human being, right? That's the type, and it's the same thing like this. You set a screen, you run through her. She doesn't have it. She doesn't really feel that. And then again and again and again, and it starts adding up, and you start feeling that physically, right? It's the same way they talk about with NFL players and how beat down they can feel at the end of the season versus the beginning of the season because it's cumulative, right? People talk about, like, I'll use an Eagles example, Saquon Barkley last year versus this year. Now there are a bunch of other issues with the team in general, but usually when a running back has such a heavy load in a season, a lot of times that next season is a decline just because of what their body went through and the abuse that their body took from the season before, right? Like it all accumulates. I don't need to see Caitlin Clark running and setting up screens and that sort of thing off of the ball. It makes zero sense. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't see. Don't forget, Caitlin's only now. Again, I don't know if that's something that would change in the CBA, but the reality of what it is right now, Caitlin's only halfway through her rookie contract. Okay, so she's not going anywhere unless they were to trade her. She's going to be here in Indy for 26. She's going to be here in Indy for 27. And then, who knows after that? We have no idea what the landscape's going to look like in terms of the WNBA. But yeah, so we'll see what happens there. But it's going to be, I think, I keep saying, fingers crossed. They got to get the CBA signed first, but it's going to be really interesting once they do to see what the free agency period looks like. I think it's going to be wild because, again, none of these players have any idea what teams are going to look like. Think of it this past year, give you an example, right? When Natasha Howard came here or Dewana Bonner, we know how all that worked out. But when they came here, right, when the Fever were talking to free agents, you knew pretty much what was in Indy, just like anywhere else, right? You knew there was going to be Aaliyah and there was going to be Caitlin, and there was going to be Lexi Hull, and so forth. But now, no idea. I mean, teams could be so dramatically different. It's just really going to be interesting with the pitches. I think teams can't make Dawn Staley would be just like, yeah, Dawn Staley would be terrible. I would not want Dawn Staley coaching Caitlin Clark. Um, but I know some people are going to get upset with this. Some people are going to get upset with this, and I'm sure there are some who could do it. Candace Parker is probably a good example. Cheryl Miller is a good example, but I would love to see someone come in like, and I know they don't want to do it. They don't want to be bothered. They're not going to get paid enough, but like a Mark Jackson or a Larry Bird, Bill Lambier, someone like that to come in and coach a team with Caitlin Clark, that would be interesting. I would like that. But if speaking of CBA, I just want to redirect for a minute. I actually did a video on this, but then I decided to go live, so that'll be out later. I think later this evening, talking a little bit about the negotiations and the fact that you've got these Brianna Stewart and Afisa Collier, right, all related to Unrivaled. And I'm wondering, just based on what we've seen so far early this season, if the Unrivaled ratings or the lack thereof, nobody's watching, if that has any impact on the negotiations with the WNBA. You know, like if Nafisa and Brianna are like, oh, damn, you know what? We might not, our league might be gone in a year or two. We might want to get on this WNBA CBA thing and just get what we can get right now. Because if we try and force this too much and then there's no WNBA season, we may not have Unrivaled either. And there may no, I asked this, I'll back up because now that we have, I actually asked this right at the beginning. I think there might have been like one or two people in here that it's wild to think about that if there's actually a possibility that in 2027, there's no professional women's basketball leagues in the United States, right? If the WNBA goes to a lockout or strike and there's no 2026, that could be it. Like they're done. Unrivaled. Now, I think Unrivaled, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think Unrivaled I think they signed, when they started, they signed, I think it's a 3-year media rights deal, right? That they're going through, which might not be renewed, or if it is, it might be for a lot less. So I think they will actually be around next year just by contract, but they might not be around after that. Hey, I know people, you want to laugh, Bill Lambier, but Bill Lambier is actually a good basketball coach, believe it or not. I don't know that he would do it, but he is a good basketball coach. So, and he's not going to take nonsense. He's not going to care about, feelings or any of that stuff or how it looks. Two, yeah, two female Lambiers to protect Caitlin would be nice. Um, that's one of the things too with Sophie. If she's not back, they don't have a player like that. There's no one. I mean, she's the only one that's. Although to be fair, Lexi has been, at least she now, we saw with JC Sheldon, and actually everyone, with everything that happened later, Sophie got all the attention. And even when that happened, luckily for the Sun, Sophie was on the bench because she did hop up and I can't think of his name right now, but the one assistant coach stopped her from running on the court because that would have been an automatic ejection. But Lexi did get into uh, Sheldon's face. Like I mean, I don't. Lexi Hull isn't going to throw hands, and that's fine. But she made it clear, like, no, we're not doing this stuff. So I'm going to give Lexi Hull some credit, but they've never had anybody. Kelsey Mitchell has shown zero interest in backing up Caitlin Clark. That's true. That's true, Nay. That's a good point. I mean, that's it. It is. That is. Oh my goodness. Oh, I almost made a joke, but I don't want to get myself in trouble. But yeah, that's a very Indiana Fever has a very emotional organization right now. A very emotional organization. Yeah. they want to make some changes there, but we'll see. Yeah, she did, but you know what? That was from playing, right? Lexi Hull is one of those players. She's what I call a run. She'll run through a brick wall to make a play. That is the type of player Lexi Hull is. Or I think she's a great example of this too. In middle school, my gym, because I was a run through a brick wall type too, and I had a gym teacher. This is how much this stuck with me. How many years later now, right? Who used to say in gym class, when, back in gym class when we actually like played sports and stuff, and competed and all that, he would always say, "Sacrifice your body. Winning is everything." Which I took to heart. And I think, Lexi Hull's that type of player, I think, as well. You need players like that in order to be a successful team. Yeah, the only thing Nay mentioned leaving is I was talking about that a few minutes ago, and she's only halfway through her rookie deal. She's only right. Best thing is to leave, but she's only halfway through her rookie deal. She has 2 more years with the Indiana Fever. I mean, unless she were to become, one of those players, which I don't see from her at all, to like be like, hey, trade me. To the point where maybe she even sits out. She's like you, and she forces the trade. But we know that is not something that Caitlin Clark would ever do. Maybe they are, Jerry. Maybe they're working on their self defense. They could get me to do that. I would not. I know. Look, how do I want to I want this to sound appropriate, okay? Because it's important to be respectful. And I'm just saying that I personally would be happy to roll around on the floor and teach Caitlin or Lexi some jujitsu and something like that. It would be a sacrifice, it would be a sacrifice for sure, but I would be willing to do it for the good of the team. I'm just saying. No, I agree, Nick. Yeah, she will. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm just saying that's something that could be done, but absolutely, she's not Jimmy Butler, right? She's not LeBron James. She's not. She's just not going to be like, oh, I'm unhappy, trade me and force it. She's just not that type of player. Um, Sometimes I wish she was, right. Like that's the thing. Like I don't. One of the big reasons Caitlin's popular, obviously, besides the basketball, is people found out how likable she is. But sometimes I wish she wasn't that likable. Do you understand what I'm saying, right? Like I wish she was have. Oh, by the way, that just popped in my head because I can't even remember what triggered it, but maybe half hour ago, someone said something, and I don't know if y'all paying attention, but my entertainment channel, which I just have not been doing enough with lately, but I keep telling myself I'm gonna get better at that. I got a at the local Regal Theater. I got their unlimited thing, which is like 26 bucks a month. Go see as many free movies as you want. So it's basically if I go see two, I'm like in profit. And so I've been seeing movies to do movie reviews, and I haven't gotten around to the reviews. But I think the last four or five that I've gone to see, with the previews, the ads and stuff, every time I'm seeing Caitlin Clark's Nike ad in the movie theater. So I'm not going to shout out Nike because I hate Nike, but it's cool to see that for her. So it's cool. Yeah, no, I agree, Nate. That's why I say, sometimes I just think that like, I mean, you all know what I'm talking about, right? Sometimes you can be so nice that you can get taken advantage of, right? And I just feel like that's a little bit with Caitlin, right? She's like always wants to see the best in everyone, and it doesn't seem like she feels like there could ever be something. No, holy crap! All right, I gotta take a moment because this is insane. We're gonna shout out Jerry for this. Oh my goodness, Jerry. Like, dude, to that amount, I don't even know what to say to that other than thank you. I really do appreciate it. I'm glad you're enjoying the content enough to even consider doing something like that. Just wish they would clean this up so we can enjoy good basketball. Keep up the good work. We love it. Thank you, Jared. I really do appreciate it. And I'm with you 100%. Like, ultimately, that's what all the complaining is about, right? Like, as fun as it could be sometimes to talk about certain things, I would love to be able to just always talk about the basketball of it all. We're not there yet. Hopefully we get there. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, Jerry, you're uh, have you been hitting that wine bottle, Jerry? Oh man, that's crazy. But thank you. Seriously, I really really do appreciate it. That means a lot. Wow. Okay. Now I completely lost my train of thought. Um, yeah. Well, Mr. Noob, she's got to stop that, right? Sometimes you gotta nip that in the bud. Stop being so nice. It doesn't mean you have to turn into a nasty, unlikable person, but espresso that'll do it too. I mean, come on, let's be real. But yeah, sometimes you just gotta. Um, and you know what though? I will say it's interesting. I think because of that, and for those of you that are NFL people, I experienced that with Jalen Hurts too. He's the same type. He's very polite. He's very well spoken, and so just like with Caitlin, you start looking to read between the lines on certain things when they're asked certain questions, right? And you're like, oh, like the other day, Jalen Hurts was asked about Kevin Patullo and his future, and Jalen, the offensive coordinator for the Eagles, and Jalen was like, well, that's something for the head coach and the GM, and everyone was like, oh man, he doesn't want Kevin back. By the way, Kevin got fired like the next day. But Caitlin's like that too, right? You all know how we read between the lines on that stuff. It started a lot with Christy Sides. All right, I hope people are being crazy. Caitlin, oh my God, thank you very very much, appreciate it. That's crazy. um, he didn't even take the opportunity to put out give me a comment to read and a question to ask. So even better, just yeah. Hey, you know what? That was a I think that was. Isn't that the name of the man? I know I'm going way back, but they're one of my favorite bands now because they just have that timeless classic rock sound. Even though they weren't, they sound like they're from the '70s, but I think they were the '90s. Wasn't that the name of the album for an album by the Black Crowes? The one that had "She Talks to Angels" on it. I think that someone let me know. I think that's what that was. Um, but hold on. We got Rhodes. Of course, thank you, sir. I do appreciate it. This was spur of the moment. I have a link for you if you want it, Rhodes. I don't know that I'm going to be here too much longer, but co- but I just sent it to you. Um, if you want to come on and yap for a few minutes. Crazy man. Good afternoon, bro. Appreciate it, man. You should be working right now. I'm just saying. I mean, I appreciate you coming by and throwing that out there, but my man's got to be out there working. Um, I agree, Nate. I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's why it's interesting to me to look and check on that stuff sometimes. Be like, oh, when she says certain things, when she's asked about the style of game or a coach's decision, and yeah, I mean, kills them with kindness is a nice way to put it in terms of what Caitlin does at times. But sometimes I just, oh man, it's like she doesn't, and I respect it, and it's professional, and just the person in me that's not like that gets hits that port where you just get completely fed up. Sometimes I just want her to let loose and just wreck everything. Is that wrong? Um, Video 5 in 5 hours, Rose. That's wild, man. That is wild. I think I did. I think I did four today. And can we include this as number five? Right? Because I think I did four today. I think I've because I did one for my Philly channel for football. I didn't get to one to entertainment, which I wanted to do. I had something to do it on. I was going to include that Star Wars AI stuff that I sent you, but I didn't get it because I'm actually heading into the movies in a little bit. but I 5 because I think I did one for this channel, and then I've got one for later tonight for this channel, and then one tomorrow. Already done. Wow, look at me. I'm no Rhodes, but I'm getting there, folks. I'm getting there. But all right, I'm just gonna ask. I'm gonna ask a question. So I've been talking so much about the free agency and the scramble and all that. Give me your GM now. Your Kelly Amber. Who's your one player, right? Kind of, we talked about this last year about when free agency opened up as the first opportunity with Caitlin Clark. But who's your one player? Who's like, okay, this is the free agent I want in Indiana above all else that I think is going to be to elevate the team, and obviously that's a compliment to the style of game that Caitlin Clark plays. All right, Duke, that's no lie, man. I mean, that's 100% no lie. But yeah, I'm curious. It's going to be interesting to that. This is a completely different topic, but still, let me know that player, Jackie Young. That's a good choice. Jackie Young's a good choice. You know about Jackie Young. That's also, yeah, that's legit, Rhodes, because she is going to be an unrestricted free agent. So signing her is signing a free agent. But you know what, Jackie Young thing, I want to go back for a moment because it's kind of wild. This just shows you how bad things were in the WNBA with the reaction to Caitlin Clark and her fans. How much we all loved when Caitlin Clark, took a tumble and Jackie Young pretends to tie her shoe in order to give Caitlin Clark a little bit of time. And we were all like, oh my God, that's so awesome. What a cool vet and this and that. Like, that would probably have gone completely unnoticed with any other player or in the NBA or anything. But because of the way Caitlin Clark was treated, it became like this viral thing, this viral story among Caitlin Clark fans. But oh, there's another Jackie Young. So we got Jackie Young, we got Sophie Cunningham. Yeah, Unrivaled did lose last year. Oh yeah, to that point, I was going to mention. I'm curious, you know, and we don't get those numbers, but for those of you who don't know, and I mean, I'm not by any means an expert, but in things like that, you get, and not just for media rights, for sports and so forth, but just in general, when money is paid out for advertising on TV and so forth, there's an expectation of the number of people you're reaching, right? The ratings. And if you're not hitting certain numbers, then there's money that goes back. So I don't know how that's set up with the media rights deal for Unrivaled in terms of, ratings, or whether or not any money goes back, or if it's just like, here's the money we're shelling out. Um, but let me put it this way, for the advertisers, right? They're shelling out the money to get the games, and then they hope to recoup that and more from the advertisers. But with the advertisers, they may have to pay money back if they're not getting the ratings. Does that make sense? So that's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. And I don't know if there's any type of opt-out deal or anything for Unrivaled. Um, wait, what is this? I remember when Angels fans were. Oh, right. Yeah, it's a good point. And I mean, it wasn't just Angel Reese. Yeah, obviously they were loud because she does have I mean, I'm not going to deny she has a lot of fans. I mean, they're not. She doesn't have a lot of basketball fans, but she does have a lot of fans. And yeah, there were people that were loud, but I think that was probably true of a lot of players, right? They just didn't have. But to be fair, I think that was something that came late, right? Because I think they had to I think for merchandise, for some reason, there was a deal that had to be made with the WNBA or something. Yeah, nay, and that's crazy enough. That is actually a high bar, right? To find someone who's wants to play with Caitlin and loves basketball and just wants to win and doesn't care about stats, because a lot of players care about their stats. It's wild. Um, yeah, that's a good point, Jerry. I think that plays into a lot of it. I think having and especially rookie year, right? Because rookie year, I think it was even worse. Having Lexi Hull on the team for Caitlin Clark, having her find that, I think was a tremendous help for her in getting through that rookie season. Satu Sabali, yeah, it's wild. Satu Sabali, it's interesting. A lot of people love that idea going into last year's free agency, including me. And then the more I saw of her in the 25 season, the more I was like, I'm glad they didn't take her. But she is talented. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that. Yeah, that is. You know what? That's it's crazy, man. I think that's true nowadays of too many athletes. Like they want to get to that point now. I guess it's a little different for the WNBA because of the lack of money, but you see that a lot in the NBA and the NFL and stuff. Now they want to get there, get that initial big contract because now, even, I mean, in those leagues, even the bottom of the barrel contracts is life changing money. I mean, unless you're stupid about it, it's life changing money. Uh, but yeah, okay, so we got Sabali, Jackie Young. Obviously, people want Sophie Cunningham to return. Um, and I've got to throw this one out there, right? Let let Kelsey Mitchell go and and sign Kennedy Carter. I'm just saying, let Kelsey go and sign Kennedy Carter. Wait, what? All right, hold on. See, I missed what Duke say. Super. I'm not getting into that, man. Yeah, well, that's what. Yeah, nay, and that's what I was saying last year too. When I was looking more into Sadhu Sabali, I'm like, I think it was because she was constantly complaining about back to back games, and I'm like, she never plays. What is she even worried about? What is she even worried about? She had one full season. So, no, man. But in order for Kelsey to get a chip, I think she's got to dial it back, and I don't think that's happening while Stephanie White is there. You know, I think that, which is why I don't think Kelsey's going to go anywhere either. I think she's in the best situation for Kelsey Mitchell. Yeah, that is true, Jerry. And again, that goes back to that whole likable thing. Like it is wild to me how unlikable most of these players are. I saw to that point, I saw Bree Turner. I saw a comment from her. Someone sent me a comment from her on Twitter, on X. I don't even know what she was talking about, but she made a comment about, basically she doesn't put any basketball on her Twitter, right? Because she's a hardcore activist. You can agree or disagree with her positions. That's not my point. But as an athlete, I just think it's a bad idea on any part of the political spectrum. And to this degree, she put out a post and said, basically, if you disagree with anything she says, with any of her activism, because she doesn't post about basketball at all, you should just block her. Right? She doesn't. She wants. See, and that's where I think a lot of the players are so upset about Caitlin Clark. They want to go back to their little bubble, right? Their little bubble where games were social gatherings with 27 other people in the stands of people that agree with her, with people that agree with the players in the league, right? They want that bubble back, man. They want that bubble back, 100%. Nay, you talking about Turner? Yeah, I don't know. Does she? I don't know what her preference is, but she does seem like she needs some relaxation. Well, that always it takes time. Greatland, like that is because I saw that a few times with a lot of with players I like in soccer, right? Man, y'all women, I mean, I'm just saying it from what I've learned and heard. Anyone who's been through this, women, you experience it, but it's almost I mean, not the feeling's not the same, but it's almost kind of like an ACL tear, right? You recover and then you take another season to actually be you again. I think pregnancy kind of has that same effect on athletes. It takes a while to get right after that, which is partly what some of the grace that I was giving Katie Lou Samuelson when she was here in 24, right? She had just had a kid not that long ago, man. That's not an easy thing, is what I'm saying. Well, that's what I'm saying, Jerry. I think that's partly because the league it's never gotten attention and it's never had to make money, right? So it was able to be something very, very different than most sports leagues are. You know, it was a Yeah, that's true, Duke. It's funny actually when you first mentioned her name, I thought you were thinking like that's a free agent you would come here, and I was like, yeah, that's actually a good choice, man. I would like to see Derica Hamby in an Indiana Fever uniform. But yeah, you're right. Also, she was back and effective, wicked fast post pregnancy. That's she's not a normal woman. I say that as a compliment, right? It's like how some people heal from injuries a lot faster. That is not normal. But yeah, Jerry, that's why I always say, it's kind of like a little bit of a dig. I'm kind of having fun with it, but I'm also being partly serious when I talk about the league as an excuse for social gatherings, because that's kind of what it used to be. They had money coming from the NBA, so they didn't have to make any money, right? They had their sugar daddy, basically, and they had very, very few fans, and they didn't have any attention, right? No media attention, no real basketball fans. These were people who supported what the players supported in terms of lifestyle and all of that. And then the basketball was just sort of something that was the thing that was used to have these gatherings. Yeah, I agree. Greatland made a comment about the 24 Fever and keeping them together. I think that would now obviously you had to make some changes, but the core of that team, I would have liked to have seen fewer changes. And it's crazy to say this, but after what happened post Olympic break, as much as I spent up to the Olympic break, like every other video was like, get rid of Christy Sides. Christy Sides has to go. We can't have Christy Sides here. Post Olympic break, I think Christy Sides actually earned herself another season. Now, what we don't know behind the scenes is, we have no idea if Chrissy Sides wanted to come back, right? That's the other thing. They might have been like, yeah, let me go, or I can't remember if she was technically fired or they let her resign. I can't remember right now, but either way, she might have been like, yeah, you know what? This isn't for me. I was just thrown into this tempest, and yeah, I'm done. I'm out. I'm gonna go and have some peace of mind, have some fun. Yeah, I really like Hamby's play as well. I think she's a heck of a player. Um, Duke, is that for basketball or is that just for protecting Caitlin Clark? Yeah, it's true. I mean, that 24 team actually had a ton of potential. Now, did they have to make some changes? Yes. Did they have to make all the changes they made? No. And as crazy as it sounded, look, I will admit when I get more information, I will adjust and I'll admit when I was wrong. If you told me up to the Olympic break, hey man, you can have Stephanie White over Christy Sides, I'm on board. I'm 100%. I'm there. I'm happy. I'm thrilled. Let's do it. If you told me post Olympic break and then what we saw from Stephanie White when she was actually here, no, let's rewind. Please, please give me Christy Sides. I will take Christy Sides over Stephanie White any day of the week to coach Caitlin Clark. Yeah, it definitely feels like it was the setup getting Stephanie White out of Connecticut, right? And we all should have known that when you look at the players that Stephanie White coached and the way that team played against Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. And to be, let's, oh man, here we go. Let's look at Stephanie White as a human being as well. She is hardcore what happens in the WNBA. Right now, you can all draw your own conclusions, do your own research, but that's a lot of what the league is. That's a lot of what what's her name, Candace, right? Candace Wiggins talked about, and the bullying and everything that she got while she was in the league. I agree. That scrolled up. I'm not going to scroll back because I get lost. But yeah, that's what I've been saying. Stephanie White wants to turn Caitlin Clark into, now look, Caitlin Clark will be one of the better ones in that role because she's so talented, but they want to turn her into what is a typical WNBA point guard, right? They want to make her Sue Bird. Well, here's the thing. Nobody watched Sue Bird. No one cared to watch Sue Bird. No one wanted to watch Sue Bird. And if you turn Caitlin Clark into Sue Bird, now look, you'll still have fans that stay because you've got people that really, after getting attached to her as a basketball player, really like Caitlin Clark and want to support her. But she'll lose a lot of basketball fans that are there to watch Caitlin Clark be Caitlin Clark on the basketball court. If that happens, if she has a season that is, all right, hold up, give me a minute, guys. I'm going to try and see if I can figure out how to get get my guest.
Yo,
Are you on here?
yeah, I'm on here, all right. I'm like bigger than you are. So
Okay. Well, you know what? What's so
what
wild, Rhodes?
what just happened?
Yeah. Well, you know what, Rhodes? It's actually wild because in the when we've done the football ones a few times, I have two screens on here, and I can mess around with the screen, and then I hit transition, and it changes to what it looks like live. This one, I've just got the one screen, so I guess when I hit bring you in, it just brought you in right away.
That
Anyway, as you all can see, we have black and white sports too. We got Rhodes just popped in to say hello. How you doing, man?
I'm doing.
I'm not even gonna mess with that screen. They can see
I,
you.
I'm doing okay. In fact, let me just close the main screen down. Okay. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that because now I'm real small in the studio. I'm good. I'm good, man. I'm good. I saw you on. I was getting ready to walk my dogs, and I was like, CDS is live, and I was like, okay, that's not the football channel. That's the
No,
that's
it
the
was
basketball
impulsive,
channel.
dude. It was impulsive, Rose. You know what it was? I was actually in here playing around with the football stuff because one of the things I was trying to figure out that I haven't been able to do yet is connect the two so that I can set up a notification for a live for the football channel ahead of time, so people can go like be notified when it goes live. And I tried it a couple times,
Yeah.
but then when I went live, the one on the actual channel wasn't going live. And then I was like, oh, you know what? Hell, I'm going live I've never done it before. I'm just going to hit live on the basketball and just talk because
And go
I just
for it.
wanted to yap about how crazy a free agency in a professional league could be with 80% of the players being free agents.
It's gonna be pure chaos. It's
Yeah.
gonna be
I mean,
it's gonna be utterly bananas. I mean, there's only what two vets that are not going to be free agents, and Lexi Brown, and who's the other one? I think her
another
last.
Brown, I think,
I
right?
was going to say her last name's Brown
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, something like over 100 players are free agents, something like
yeah,
that.
that's
It's
that's
wild.
that's true. So let me ask you a question. Do you
Yeah.
think? Do you have a prediction, a wager as to when this CBA deal is actually going to get signed? Do you have a feeling on it yet?
Oh man, like a drop dead
Yeah,
date
yeah. Like
for.
at
Yeah.
some point they got to sign it. At some point they
Yeah,
have
yeah.
to
Well,
to step up.
you know what's interesting is I actually think what we've seen from Unrivaled so far makes it more likely, I think, that the CBA gets signed. And that what I mean is they're seeing the ratings of Unrivaled. No one is watching, no one cares. And they're like, oh well, you know what? Damn, this might not be an alternative to the WNBA. So maybe we better get what we can get and get back out on the court and play basketball because Unrivaled might not exist next year. Now, I think they will because they have the media rights deal another season. But after that, I don't
It's a
know.
it's a wrap after that.
Yeah,
It's a wrap. Yeah.
it's done.
Because well, and the other thing that nobody's talking about besides their disastrous ratings is whatever happens with this WB sale will directly affect Unrivaled because TNT Sports is part of
True.
Warner Brothers Discovery.
That's a good
So,
point. Yeah.
yeah. So I said that alone was probably going to end up killing Unrivaled, because they're going to lose. Word has it they're going to lose HBO. Okay, which is how
Oh
people are,
wow.
which is how people are watching their product
Right.
from a streaming standpoint. So Unrivaled's in trouble, but
Yeah,
you are
definitely.
right. I agree with you. You are right. I believe the fact that Unrivaled is an unmitigated disaster so far, and it's worse than I thought it was going to be. I'm not going to lie to you. It is
Yeah.
considerably worse than I thought it was going to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was shocked. The first ones that I saw since that opening were this Friday, this past Friday. Finally saw the rate. It was by the way, just on a side note, on the TV ratings guide, you know, that site.
Yeah.
One thing I've seen that I've never seen from them before, I'm seeing on the last few days is like it keeps saying for the cable ratings coming soon, even
Oh,
from like days ago.
they're
But I
up
finally
now.
saw well, I saw Fridays. Yeah, yeah.
Right. Right.
But 110,000, man. 110,000 and 100. Now, that 110,000 for those people who keep wanting to try and gaslight us about the cultural impact of Paige Becker's, that's
Oh,
Paige
stop.
Becker's gained
Stop.
100
Stop. Stop.
110,000 viewers, man.
Stop. That's turned out to be the biggest fraud in professional sports right now. The marketing power of Paige Beckers. What marketing power? Are you kidding me?
See, now
You got to be kidding me.
here's the thing, and I don't know, maybe it's just me because you know I'm the youngest of five and I'm a bit of a pain in
Nobody
the ass.
cares.
But if I'm media, I'm going, and I forget who it was exactly, but it was one of the, I forget if it was the like the official head in terms of president, but one of the top people in Unrivaled, and which is why I said that last week when Unrivaled was opening, talking about what a cultural impact off the court Paige Beckers has had. Now, me, if I'm media, I'm following up with that. I'm like, okay, well, you know, Paige Beckers just played a game. You got a whopping 110,000 viewers. By the way, the two YouTube people here talking have videos with more than 110,000 viewers.
Oh
Now, not,
God.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and we're not, you know, and there are many channels way bigger than us. I'm saying,
Sure.
so are you still sure that Paige Beckers is having a cultural impact? I'm just, can we follow up on that?
Well, we know their idea of cultural impact. Let's just keep it real.
Yeah.
I understand this is not black and white sports, the main channel, but they want to prop her up as having cultural impact because of what? She checks two major
Yeah. There it
boxes.
is.
Okay, let's just keep it real. This is where the women's basketball the agenda takes center stage. She's lesbian. There, I said it out loud, and she's in an interracial relationship. So she checks another massive second box, and they've decided to. She's also, by the way, the third one. She's part of the Yukon Mafia.
Yes.
So,
Well, and also her she added to that with her ESPY speech, right?
oh yeah,
About, you
yeah,
know,
sure,
how
sure.
awful she. Now, it's interesting with all the privilege that she has that she doesn't seem to be turning down any of these monetary opportunities that she gets for any other, you know, not so privileged people, but she talks it. And by the way, at least from what I've heard, and this is why, and I only bring this up because I was kind of talking about this with Stephanie White without really saying it. And someone mentioned Candace Parker. She's the same way. And this is what's so wild about the WNBA because I don't care about that with Paige. But what is wild to me is how many of them are that now, but they
Mm.
weren't. Stephanie White, she was a married
it's
woman.
it's
Candace
it's
Parker, married with a kid. Like, you know what I mean? It's because
yeah,
what I was getting at is Paige Beckers was also apparently
yeah. She had a boyfriend not too
had a
long ago.
switch, you know, so there's a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
switch ups,
yeah,
like far more than what you get in the general population.
yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. And part of it is, I think, the culture in the locker rooms. I don't know exactly what happens once they get into those women's basketball locker rooms, but there's obviously, I'm gonna keep it real. There's obviously
Uh oh.
some minor grooming going on. If you
Oh
want to
yeah, yeah,
if you want to know the complete truth about it,
right.
um,
Because yeah, because here's the thing, and just so people know about me not caring is there are a lot in soccer as well but there is none, like, at least from what I've seen, and I'm pretty steeped in soccer. And I've been to U.S. national team practices and been on the field and met but there's none of this extra that we're hearing about. Like you said, like I would never in a million years think that's going on with soccer, or the switching up or any of that doesn't happen in soccer. They
Yeah.
just, a number of players happen to have that preference, but they don't have all the other weird stuff that goes along with it.
Well, in the WNBA and in Unrivaled, if you check those boxes, it's a monetary win for you. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
It's an elevation of your product. Nobody's watching you because of that, but among
Yeah.
sports media,
Right.
among a section of social media, it elevates you to some kind of
It
a
matters. Yeah.
hero
Yes.
status.
Right.
Um, you know, so
It's an easy way to elevate your value in certain people's eyes.
sure, sure. You know what? I will say this. I'm going to keep it real. You guys know I'm not the biggest Angel Reese fan in the world. I'm sure this is well chronicled, but I'm not going to kid you. Unrivaled's missing her right now.
Oh, for sure.
Unrivaled is
For sure.
missing her little miniature version
That-
of the Shadur Sanders fan base that
yes.
followed
Oh,
her everywhere and watched basketball games.
there,
They're missing
no doubt.
Angel right now.
No doubt.
Now,
I mean, I don't know that all those people would be watching, but I think you would get more people watching because there would be a lot more talk about Unrivaled on social media
oh sure,
if
sure,
Angel Reese was playing.
sure,
Absolutely. I mean,
yeah.
well, that's the thing, and that's what I think. Real quick, to pat us on the back for just a moment, that a lot of people miss because they purposely want to miss. Those of us who watch us, those out there who watch you and I a lot, get this. I don't care who it is. If somebody is worthy of praise, we'll do it. Like, same, because I'm not an Angel Reese fan, but when Angel Reese does something or says something that deserves praise the way I criticize her,
Oh,
I'm
I'm gonna
there.
give her. I'm gonna give her
Yeah.
credit. I'm gonna give her
And
credit.
there's no
Yeah,
doubt she's got a lot of
yeah,
fans.
yeah. I'm gonna give her. Well, she went on about a 20 game run last year where it was pretty clear her game had improved. Whether
Agreed.
anybody
Yeah.
whether anybody wanted to give her credit or not, her game improved. Her field goal percentage went way up for about 20 games last year. She added 7% onto her field goal percentage from the
Yeah.
previous year. There was some things to take note of. The problem is now it looks like she's got a yearly habit of quitting on her team, whether it's the
Yeah.
WNBA or
That's not a good
Unrivaled.
look. Yeah.
It's not a
That's
good
not, yeah.
it's not a good look.
That's not a
Do
good
I
look.
do I think she wants to really and truly play basketball? No, I don't.
No. I,
You
I
know?
think, well, it's funny because I think it was right before you got here, but that was kind of one of the things mentioned in the comments. I think Nay mentioned it first, and there are people following up that it seems like a lot of these players, they don't love the game of basketball. And I think Angel Reese is one of those in a different way. Like, a lot of them don't love it, but it's a better job than others. But with Angel Reese, I think she is like, hey, basketball is going to give me all these other opportunities I want that I would not get. And when
Yeah.
she gets those and she's had her fill and she says, okay, all this other stuff, I'm established in whatever it is that she's doing, then she's done with basketball.
Well, and I think
But to
also
her credit, she also, I will say this about her. She is one of those players that if there wasn't everything else around her, I'd probably be a big fan because she's hardcore 100% when she's on the court.
she's got a motor. There's no
Yeah,
doubt
no
about that.
doubt.
You can't rebound like that and not have a motor.
No, nope.
Um, I mean, we grew up in the era of Dennis Rodman, so we've seen that motor before. You know,
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
I've always, that's
I,
why I love Allen Iverson.
I, I
Different
do
type of motor, but
I do think when we talk about fans showing up to Unrivaled to watch Angel, some of that we got to keep in perspective. I'm talking about the difference of an extra 20,000 fans
oh yeah,
or,
yeah.
or
But that's still
25,000 or 30,000 fans. But right now, from a public
that's
perception,
huge.
a,
Yes.
a 150,000 viewers would look a lot better than 100,000 because
Oh, 100%.
publicly, they look absolutely wretched right now.
Yeah.
It's much worse than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. And
Um,
you know what's wild to that real quick is I remember right around when the Unrivaled season was starting, seeing a lot of stuff people like article media talking about it, but also, obviously on X and stuff where people were talking about one thing that Unrivaled is so much better than the WNBA is, right? They understand marketing and they have a great social media presence and they know how to do this and they know how to do that. And I'm like, well, it doesn't translate to anything though. It's like
No,
that.
no.
Ultimately, all that stuff is supposed to be about ratings.
It not look. We talk about, look, the merchandising stuff is great. The gate revenue, absolutely, that's great. This applies to what I'm going to say now. Applies to the WNBA too. None of it matters except for television money. None of it.
True. True.
None of it. That is why the NFL is God right now, because they had a unbelievable upward trajectory of explosion of television ratings over the last 25
Oh,
years.
yeah. I mean,
That
well, just
it's
think,
all about TV money.
just think about this, everyone. You think about what the NFL players are making, right? I promise you, that is not coming from 8 or 9 home game ticket sales. Right? Like, I mean,
Right, right.
and none of the sports are now, but think about that. Football, these NFL teams have 8 or 9 home games. Okay. I don't think that would cover a player's contract, let alone all the expenses that a team has, right? It's all about the TV money.
Yeah, yeah. So we got a couple of people in the chat here. Arthur, who said Angel got fired up basically because she taunted Caitlin Clark in the national champion. That's absolutely part of how she built her brand.
Oh yeah,
And
Nay said that.
I
I saw
absolutely,
Nay say that
yeah,
too. Yeah,
yeah, I absolutely acknowledge that. No doubt about it. But it worked to a point. Let's
it
be
worked.
honest. It did.
Yeah.
It's there's nothing better than a good villain in sports.
Oh,
You know,
100%.
you
Like,
got to have
yeah,
a hero and you got to have a villain. And
yeah,
she has embraced that role. Now, where she loses me is when there's an altercation with Caitlin Clark, and then
yeah. That,
after the game, there's allegations that the Indiana Fever fan
yeah, that,
base
yeah.
is racist, and she doesn't step up and go, "No, I didn't hear anything like that."
Right.
She let
Instead, she
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 let
she
it play out.
insinuates that she heard it.
Absolutely, and it never happened.
And she plays that victim and go, oh, like she doesn't actually say, oh, I heard them say it, but based on the way the question asked, she was like, oh yeah, it was so tough. I mean, you hate to hear bad things like that, and I just had to fight through it. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't actually ever hear anything.
You didn't hear anything to fight through. That's the
Right,
problem,
exactly. Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
But anyway, yeah, it's going to be chaos. Oh, did you ever tell me when you thought they would get the deal done?
Oh, no, 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 no. You know, I think it's got to be for me, unless they end up being like doing like Major League Baseball or whatever at time, and they actually have a shortened season. I think it absolutely has to be done by, I'm going to say March 1st. And here's why: because you have to have expansion draft.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have you've got to give them some free agency time, especially when the entire league's a free agent. And then you have to have the draft, which is in April.
They got another huge issue here.
Right. So it's
Uh,
got to be, but I'm saying March. It's got to be done by March
well, I
to have
was
a full
thinking
season.
maybe February 15th. They've got
Yeah. Yeah.
they've got another issue that I talked about in the video the other day. I brought it up. You've got basketball arenas across the country right now that are starting to want to literally
I saw
book
that. Yeah.
dates that are
Yeah.
supposed to be WNBA
Sure.
dates. They want
They
to
got to
book
make
dates
money.
with other things. Sure, they do.
Right. I mean, the WNBA teams, the WNBA teams do not own where they play. Okay.
Right,
So
right.
those places make money by filling them. So if the WNBA is not playing, if the Indiana Fever are not playing 22 home games in Gamebridge, those dates, they want to make money.
Yeah, they're going to mess around. They'll look up and they're playing a game in a junior college. I mean,
Yeah.
because they won't have any other place to play. I kid
100%.
you not. That's another black eye, another bad look for the league. We talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
Last year we would sit back and watch broadcast, and the broadcast looked like something you would see out of Double A baseball on a quality level. Well, that's the same kind of thing, because you can't get your scheduling right, your arena situation. All these kind of things lend itself to removing your credibility as a professional league. Do you want to be credible? Do you want to look like you're growing with Caitlin Clark and keeping up with it,
I,
or do you not?
I don't
You
I
know,
don't think they do actually. I think they want the benefits of growing, but they don't actually want any of the else that comes with it. But by the way,
God, that's
and
that's
to be
crazy. That's so
to be
nuts.
fair to I mean this is being fair to the Chicago Sky, but it's a great example of what you're talking about. Is I remember I think it was the first time in 24, Caitlin's rookie year, where they were playing in Chicago and they didn't play in United, right? They didn't play in the bigger arena, and a lot of people were mad, and they thought it was the Chicago Sky about not wanting to do it because of Caitlin Clark and all that. But there was already something scheduled. My point being that's an example of what you're talking about, right? Like United is not just there for the 41 plus playoff Bulls games,
Right, right,
right?
right.
So they're not if they're not going to stay open in hopes that the Chicago Sky might play a game there. You know what I
Well,
mean?
and
They plan things out, whether it's concerts or whatever else it might be.
it's just it's as simple as,
As Duke
well,
just mentioned, yeah,
do we want to hold this date and not put anything there, or do we want to book WWE Monday Night Raw that night?
right,
I
right,
mean,
exactly,
that's
yeah,
a lot of money.
a
That's
lot
a
of money.
lot of revenue for an arena. A lot of revenue.
Yeah, and
Uh,
and arenas they have a lot of expenses, y'all. When they sit empty doesn't mean that there's it's not costing. It costs a lot of money for an arena to sit empty.
sure, sure.
I mean that's
Somebody did point out in the chat that Angel Reese did have an 80,000 viewership game with Unrivaled, and that's true. But it was later on in the year, as or in the season, as the league had kind of drug on. But when you're just starting your season, that's where your ratings ought to be,
well, yeah. That's what I was
at
just
their
gonna say.
peak next to the
Last
playoff.
year, last
They
year went like this,
Yeah,
and now
yeah,
the beginning of this year is already starting.
they're starting at the low
At the
point. Yeah,
bottom,
yeah.
like below what the average was last year. Like they're starting out worse than they finished.
Well, did you see there was a 32,000 view game?
Well, was that
That was
total
on
or was
True.
that the demo?
That was on True TV. There was a
Oh, okay.
32,000 viewership game,
Yeah,
which is which is
insane.
bonkers. I mean, that is,
Like,
yeah, it's unfathomable for
man,
what's supposed.
that's insane. Well, that's the other interesting thing, and I think I was talking about this before you got on here, Rhodes, and you might know a little more of the details, but like for advertising on TV, right? They make their deals, and a lot of it is dependent on it's like, okay, we're looking at these ratings, we're going to have this number of viewers. And so this is what it's going to cost. And if you don't hit those viewer numbers, you give back money to the advertisers, right? So, like TNT, they shelled out the money for Unrivaled, and the idea being they're going to make it up plus some in advertising. But if the ratings are that bad, they're giving money back to the
That's
advertisers.
I've seen it happen in the NFL,
Yeah,
that
it's right.
they have to give out extra ads. If they, See, what people don't understand is when media rights deals are agreed to, the league gives the advertisers, and the networks and the leagues give the advertisers an expectation of viewership for your ad when you pay for that media rights deal. And when those viewers don't actually happen, those ads have to be made up somewhere in order for that viewership to equal out. Okay, now how that ends up getting done, there's a lot of different ways throughout a game they
Yeah,
figure out
whether
how to
it's
do it.
giving out
Uh,
money or giving a free ad or yeah, absolutely.
Nonetheless, they're not getting what they agreed to. You
Definitely
know,
not. There's no
so
way. There's no way because I don't care how much they would want a virtue signal. TNT is not paying the kind of money they paid to get games of 110, 150, 170,000 viewers.
no. Well,
There's no way.
I've got a theory that Brianna Stewart, Alex Brazell, and Neficia Collier lied to TNT. This is just a theory. Lied to TNT and a lot of investors that they were going to lock Caitlin Clark into this league, and
That wouldn't surprise me. That could
they
be why they
failed
were
to do
so
it.
desperate in year one to get her.
That they set the expectation and then failed to deliver. I will never convince, because why on earth would you invest so much money into a league like this when the WNBA's never turned a profit? It makes no
No,
sense.
yeah. I
No.
mean, the only thing is, which is wild to me, is if you were so caught up in all of what Caitlin Clark brought that you actually thought, even without her, there was so much momentum from what she did that they would all then tune into like they wanted more
Oh,
women's basketball, right? I
now
mean, that's
they are delusional. I mean, let's be honest. They are completely delusional. So, is it very possible that they've worked themselves up? And I believe they absolutely think they are superstars on a level with her, which is like
I think a
peak
lot of them
peak
have convinced
delusion.
themselves of that.
Sure.
Now, yeah, I mean, the other thing is, and this is why I said that, is you could also have a bunch of them that look at it as an expense in terms of PR in where we are now. And what I mean by that is, and I hate using this example, but I think it's clear cut for everyone. So I'm not getting into the issues with that player. But let's talk about the fact that after what Colin Kaepernick did and got and all the speaking out that he did, and then Nike actually gives him, when he's out of football, Nike gives him an endorsement deal. Do,
Sure.
do you do either one of us think that Nike actually thought that that was an investment for which they would return a profit? Right?
Surely
No, I
not.
think they did it for
Surely not.
other reasons, right?
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
think there could be a little bit about that here, and that they were capping. Okay, Caitlin Clark's not playing, but she's going to the W. There's all this attention on the women's game now. Now there's going to be a big deal about what the women get paid compared to the men, and this and that, and it's going to look good for us. Even if we lose money on Unrivaled specifically, it's going to look good for us as a business to have invested in it.
Without a doubt, there is a social feminist aspect to this by way of not only the sports media but the investors involved. That is absolutely a thing. It's a monetary virtue signal, is what it is.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
That's what it is. Yeah,
it's a business expense to them, not an investment.
yeah, exactly right. Yeah,
Yeah,
you are correct.
that's my thought on that. So so they figured if they realized that, like, look, we're going to put all this money in, and we're not going to lose it all because there will be people that watch. So they probably figured it all out, and we're like, it's most likely we're going to lose X millions of dollars, and we're okay with that because of what else comes from us doing that investing.
And by the way, they shouldn't be just upset with Caitlin Clark not playing. All of their big names are out of this league.
Well,
All
yeah,
of them.
there's right. Yeah,
Sabrina's not playing, Asia's not playing, Angel's not playing. I mean,
Nafisa's not playing.
well, Sophie's not playing.
Sophie's not
And and
playing.
I and do I
And
think
some of them can. I mean, to be fair, Sophie can't because she's hurt, and Nafisa's hurt. I think Sabrina's hurt.
I think it's hilarious that Nafisa didn't get herself on the road to recovery fast enough to try to get in her own league, but she
Yeah,
didn't. Why
I
did
don't
you
know that
wait
she
so long
cares.
for surgery?
Yeah,
I don't get that.
yeah,
She hurt herself 3 months ago and
yeah.
decided to have surgery like what, three
That's
weeks ago?
bizarre.
It's
That
weird.
that's a huge. And
It's
even
weird.
for me, now I know it's a WNBA, so it's different, and Minnesota won't be like that. But for me, if I'm like involved in the Minnesota Lynx organization, I'm the GM, or I'm in some. That's a red flag to me for a player to do that.
Yeah,
You know
it
what I
is.
mean?
It is.
Because we've
It
seen
is
that.
for
I mean,
me
to be
too.
fair with her,
Yeah.
we've seen that, and I can't think of a specific example, but I've seen
We've
that
seen it
with
in other sports.
and with other sports where it's like they wait till the off season's almost over, and
Mhm.
then they'll have surgery, and it's like, why didn't you just do it at the end of last season? Right? And usually it is because a player's unhappy about something, or they want to get traded or a new contract or whatever. So they're like, it's kind of a holdout in a way, but they're going to use the injury for it.
Right, right,
But
right.
that's a red flag. If you're the organization, I'm like,
Sure.
no, I want the player who's playing through it and then waits till the off season for the injury, not the player who stops playing and then waits to the next season to have the surgery. Like, come on.
It doesn't make a lot of sense. It really doesn't. And it kind of looks like she wanted to set out of her own league. That's what
Almost.
it
And
looks
she
like
wanted
to
an
me.
excuse because there's no way, right? Like, there's no way she could do it if she were healthy. To your point, Duke, if you're asking me, no, I don't think the Lynx are. I'm just saying for me, if I was a GM of the Lynx, that's a red flag to me in terms of her commitment and her heart as a player. But yeah, I mean that could very well be. You know, I mean, think about it. She went through the 24 season, played in Unrivaled, went through the 25 season, and she might have been like, you know what, I don't want to do it again.
By the way, a lot of people got hurt. Did you notice that played in
Yes.
Unrivaled last year
Oh
got
yeah. Oh
hurt
my
during the
gosh.
WNBA
Well,
season?
so many that they expanded that like little players in waiting thing that they've got going on that are like, you know, for injuries and so forth. Oh
That's
yeah, it was. But by the way, that's also a great example of how, speaking of professional or unprofessional, a great example of how unprofessional Unrivaled is, because it was such a disaster with the injuries that they actually the league moved players between teams to make sure teams had enough players. I'm like, how is that legitimate? Like, you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, I'm thinking about like think about this. Like, here we are, we're the Phillies, we're going down the home stretch, right? And we're trying to win our division, and all of a sudden we get a bunch of injuries in the outfield, and the league steps in and they're like, all right,
We'll loan you a Brave.
Aaron Judge, you're going to go to Philly for a little while and play some outfield for the Philadelphia Phillies, okay? Because the Yankees are healthy,
No, the hell you're not. I
right?
mean, can
I mean, that's what it's like, though.
can you imagine? I mean but that once again that intertwines with all the conflict of interest
Yeah,
things
yeah,
that are so interwoven into this league. I mean, it amazes me that so many athletes don't care about these conflicts of interest. And when your athletes get hurt, then it is a conflict of interest for the WNBA.
absolutely. Oh,
These
absolutely.
are
It's a
your
risk, right?
these are
Yeah,
your assets,
yeah.
and they're
I
putting
mean,
themselves at risk.
and to be fair, that's true with the overseas leagues as well.
Absolutely, it
You
is.
know,
Yeah, yeah, no doubt
and
about it.
it's crazy because I don't know. Now the players might have so much pull now that it's lessened, but I know it used to be a big deal with uh, players that would sign big contracts, and then it was like, you can't go skiing, you can't ride a motorcycle. You know what I mean? Like, they would have these things that they couldn't do because if they did them and they got hurt, they were voiding that contract.
Well, they're still in a lot of sports contracts, I
I
think.
figured they are. I just
Yeah,
haven't. You don't hear them
sure.
talked about as much anymore. And you know, the players have so much power. I could see them wanting to get certain things out.
Yeah, yeah. Pickup basketball was a big one because of
Pick up
Achilles injury.
basketball because they injured. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. Um,
absolutely.
Arthur, I just saw a comment. I think Arthur mentioned, and I just bring it up because we're talking about them because I loved it as well. He just mentioned about how entertaining it was to see Breanna Stewart get shut out last year in the 1v1 tournament. And I agree. I agree. It was Aaliyah Edwards, I believe, right? Shut her out. That was
Yeah,
fun to
yeah.
watch. That was fun to watch.
Some
Now the
some of these athletes are painful to watch. Period. If you want to know the absolute
well,
truth, I'm just being
um,
honest.
a lot of them aren't athletes, and that's the thing. And I'm not saying that to be mean, but you know, it's like, and I say this from someone with that background who trains athletes. Look, there are a lot of different physical attributes and even mental attributes into what creates an elite athlete, right? But most strength and conditioning coaches, athlete development people will tell you, if there's one thing you're going to measure that is the biggest indicator, it's a vertical leap.
Mm, yeah,
And none of them have that, right? Like, that's the thing. And it's interesting because y'all remember the one time, I think it was in her rookie year, where you know the basketball got stuck, you know how sometimes it was between the rim and the backboard, and Caitlin Clark went off going off 2 feet,
yeah,
easily got it
yeah.
down, right? Because
Well,
she's an athlete. She is. I mean, a lot of
that's
people like
what
to pretend
was
she's not, but
that's what was so jarring about Michaela showing up in the
Timpson.
league
Oh, Timpson,
and Timpson, yeah, and having
athlete,
that vertical
athlete.
leap, that athlete. It was like, wow, she's kind of one of the only WNBA players that at least has a flirtation of NBA
Yeah.
athleticism
Oh
in her.
man, she could.
You
Yeah.
know.
It would not. It would not. Now, look, obviously, I'm only getting this from what I'm seeing in games, but from what I have seen in games, it would not surprise me if Michaela Timpson had the highest vertical leap in the WNBA.
I
Now,
agree
she
with
may
that.
not be, but I think she would be up there if she's not.
I
But yeah, I mean, because the whole thing with the vertical leap is what that's showing. That's all about putting force into the ground. And when you can do that vertically, that then you're also talking about someone who can be now again you have to train other things, but it's that same explosiveness left or right. It's your foot into the ground. Now you're going left or right instead of up, but it's still that same type of force production, and that's what makes you quick. So I was moving my mic.
when
If anyone couldn't hear me, and that's why they say it's like that's like the number one thing, because if you have a high vertical, most likely it means you're explosive, and if you're explosive, that's a big part of being athletic.
Well, one of the reasons this league struggles with viewership is there is a real, at times, lack of athleticism
Exactly.
in these ball games, no doubt about it. And
Exactly.
it can be a
And
very rough visual watch. Some of
yeah,
these
and
games are brutal to get through. They
they are,
really
and
are.
it,
Yeah.
it's interesting, and I always bring this up because unfortunately things have gotten worse. And as you know, we're in this age where if you're critical, like it becomes the whole thing about gender. And so I always say this: and look, basketball probably more than any other sport exposes all of that. And what I mean is I can watch high level women's pro tennis and it's very enjoyable. I can watch golf. I can watch softball. I can watch soccer, right? I would rather watch women's gymnastics than men, right? So it's not
Absolutely.
about,
Sure.
oh, it's women. It's about the product itself. And unfortunately, physically, the differences basketball exposes, I think, them more than any other.
Well, and look, we're a great example. We're about to have the Olympics.
Yeah.
Most of the sports in the Olympics, I will watch the females just as much as the males,
Same, same.
and not even think twice about it.
Yep.
But the lack of athleticism in basketball gets exposed
It
nearly
does.
immediately.
It's
Nearly
it's
immediately.
wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just such a jarring difference compared to other sports,
Yeah.
you know?
Agreed.
Because,
Absolutely.
and what I mean is like if for any of those who do, if you watch soccer, if you watch a high level women's game and you put a high level men's game side by side, night and day. But if you're just watching women's soccer as a soccer fan, it is enjoyable, and it doesn't go through your head about, oh, well, the man would do this and you know what I mean? But with
Yeah. Sure.
basketball, it's just different.
Yeah, it is. It
And that's
is.
one of the reasons so many people love Caitlin Clark, because that was lessened for them. Her ability to hit that logo. But again, it's not just that. The passes that she throws, right? She at the risk of sounding sexist, she plays a more male game than any women's basketball player I've seen. I mean, other than
Uh,
the fact like she's not going down the lane and dunking, but the other stuff.
right.
Even her
Right.
handles, to be fair, when she decides she's going to go 1v1 and get to the basket, I enjoy watching that. It's the only women's player that I enjoy watching that.
So, does your chat move for you on the left side inside the
It
studio?
it does. Yes.
Okay, it does.
I mean, sometimes a blue like arrow hits where I've got to go and hit that and scroll down if there's some that it doesn't see, but it does move. Yes. Why is it not
Okay.
moving for you?
I had
Is it
to.
got stuck?
I guess so. I had to click a button. It went all the way to the bottom, and then
Yeah, it does that to
finally
everyone. I
some
don't know
new
why.
comments
I don't know
loaded
if
in.
it's maybe if I like accidentally click on one, or even if I just hover over one, maybe it stops moving, but it does at times. Yeah, I would agree with that. Duke said Caitlin's got the greatest offensive skill set. Um, yeah, uh, yeah, I think so. Like, it's just that's what's wild. The logo threes got my attention, but I enjoy the way Caitlin plays the entire game, like
Well,
everything that she does.
I love a great passer,
Oh yeah, and her
because I grew up in an era with John Stockton and Mark Price
yeah,
and
right. Oh
Larry
yeah.
Bird and
Well,
Mark Jackson and so many
if
guys
you
that could really
well, if you're
really
gonna
deliver
name
the rock.
them,
Guys,
if you're gonna
and
name them, another one, I'm gonna
she
name.
was
I just before you keep
Isaiah
going, I just
Thomas.
want to name one guy because
Yeah.
just because I think he gets passed over a lot. And I'm not saying he was one of the greatest players of all time, but entertainment value, and he
Mhm.
definitely was skilled. Jason Williams.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Jason Williams. Sure. A lot of guy. I love to watch elite passing in basketball, and she can deliver that. You know,
Oh, for sure.
I've said she reminds me of John Stockton. She really does.
But a better scorer.
And
Not that he couldn't score, but
true, true.
obviously she's more scoring oriented.
Well, when her and Aaliyah Boston get the 2-man game going, I
Oh,
say it
well,
it,
yeah.
it reminds me of the old Stockton Malone two-man game that they
John
ran. They won a lot of games doing that, by
John
the way.
Stockton, and I really don't say this to be negative to Karl Malone, but John Stockton made Karl Malone's career.
Oh, Malone was a physical beast, though.
Oh, he
He was
was. There's no
he
doubt.
was a physical.
But
I mean,
but come on, that pick and roll
a
2-man
beast.
game with
Ooh.
and to be
And he
fair,
could grab those rebounds. I mean,
oh
Malone
yeah,
Malone was a beast. He was.
oh yeah. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, and I'm not saying he wouldn't be playing in the NBA if he didn't have that, but I'm just saying it was vastly elevated. Just the way Aaliyah Boston is a very good center on her own, but she is a different kind of player when her and Caitlin get that 2-player game going.
Right. Right.
She's
Well,
just,
hey,
just it.
man, I think I need to bounce off of here. I
No,
just
I
wanted
do
to.
too. Actually, I'm catching a movie in about 20 minutes. So
What are you going to see tonight?
I'm actually finally going to see, and I expect it to be bad, but I do like the 2 main people. I'm going to see the Anaconda reboot with
Oh,
Paul Rudd
okay. It'll be fun.
Jack Black.
Yeah, it'll
So
be
yeah, well, that's
fun.
what I'm thinking. It's not
Yeah.
going to be cinema, but I think it'll be entertaining.
Believe it or not, and this is going to shock a lot of people. I watched Predator Badlands the other day,
Oh, did
and
you really?
I didn't hate it, to be honest.
No.
In fact, I got to tell you, Grace Randolph did more damage to that movie.
Oh yeah.
Well, because you remember she went out there and she tried to work up some kind of a romance between the android and the Predator. And that absolutely wasn't in the movie at
Wow.
all.
Right.
It wasn't even involved. I mean, was there some cutesy things in there that you don't normally
Thanks,
see in a
more.
Predator? But it was kind of it was like a buddy action film.
Yeah.
But I didn't hate it. No, I didn't hate it.
All right. Well, our expectations have been lowered over the years.
Well, there's some Predator movies I do hate.
Oh yeah,
That
that's
that
with a lot of
one,
IPs that people love. There are actually a lot of bad movies, a lot of bad Alien movies, a lot of bad Friday the 13th movies,
yeah.
but we
Oh,
love the iconic
bite your tongue.
characters.
Bite your tongue. I don't think. Is there a bad Jason Voorhees movie? I guess I hadn't seen that. I don't know. Jason goes to hell.
There's a few. There's a few.
Jason,
Thank you,
Jason,
Jerry, man. I really appreciate it.
Jason takes a love boat. Also
JJ
known as
Light, thank you for showing up. I'm listening. I'm sorry. People
Jason
are saying
Takes
because we're
Manhattan.
wrapping up. They're like, but I wish there would be a new Friday the 13th movie, man.
It's coming. It's going to happen.
I hope so.
Yeah.
They got to get. It's been a while, but yeah. Appreciate everyone who showed up. Thank you so much. The chat was rocking the entire time, and like I said, this was like on impulse. I was in here doing something else, and I'm like, I'm gonna go live on the other channel and see what happens. Thank you, Rose, for popping in as well. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It was fun.
I think you got the count up a little bit. But all right, yeah, man. Thanks all. Appreciate you checking it out. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
We'll see. But yeah, man. All right. Appreciate it.